Good afternoon. I will now call this regular council meeting, Monday, July 20th, 2026, to order at 5 p.m. And we will start off with our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the unceded ancestral territory of the Silks, Okanagan peoples and the Splatsin of the Secwepemc Nation. First, we'll be looking for an adoption of the agenda that the July 20th, 2026 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Todd, second by Councillor Wayner. All those in favor? That will be carried. And next, we'll be looking for an adoption of the minutes that the June 29th, 2026 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Valstar, seconded by Councillor Todd. All those in favor? This too shall be carried. And we will start off this evening with a couple of delegations. First of all, I'd like to call up the British Columbia Dragoons, and we have Lieutenant Colonel Wade Peters. Good afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, thank you for inviting us here today. With me is Honorary Colonel Keith Culver. Although the honoraries are technically not a military member, they still serve the regiment by promoting it within its local communities, as they often have business, academic, or even political connections. So Dr. Culver is here with me today as support. And thank you for inviting us here. Our presentation is really to give you an update on the Canadian Army, how it's moving forward, but also how it affects everybody here locally, as the British Columbia Dragoons are the Okanagan's regiment, with soldiers parading from Golden all the way to Oliver and all places in between. So first of all, who we are, we're an armored unit of the Canadian Army Primary Reserve. We're part-time soldiers that parade on Wednesday nights, the occasional weekends and summer, as well as being on call, but we are trained to the same standard as the regular force or the full-time soldiers. The Dragoons were formed in 1911 in Vernon and Kelowna and have been present in Penticton periodically throughout most of our history. We're currently based in Kelowna and Vernon and conduct exercises across Western Canada. The regiment has been growing rapidly post-COVID, and it now has approximately 100 soldiers that live and work, as I mentioned, from Golden all the way to Oliver. Currently, 4 of our reservists live in the Armstrong area, with a further 18 soldiers living in the North Okanagan and Shuswap areas. The regiment has served Canada of distinction in both world wars, and recently with more than 25% of the regiment contributing to Canada's mission in Afghanistan, as well as contributing soldiers to Canada's NATO mission in Latvia today. Last year, we had 7 soldiers deployed to Latvia. This year, we've had 1 soldier who just returned a month ago, with another soldier deploying a couple of weeks ago to Latvia. So we continue to support that mission. The Canadian Armed Forces faces a number of global challenges requiring modernization of our forces and our structure. That includes the Canadian Army and the BCD itself. NATO is being challenged at its borders, requiring Canada to step up to meet its treaty commitments to defend its allies. Canada is leading a multinational battle group in Latvia to deter aggression from Russia. However, non-state actors such as criminals and ideological extremists are also challenging our dimensions of defense at home, the realm and security, mostly in the form of cyber attacks on national institutions such as electoral system, incursions in Canada's north. The Canadian Armed Forces has to adapt to a new world of cyber attacks and need to be persistently present in the north. At the same time as global security threats, domestic natural disasters are increasing in frequency and severity, creating a need for assistance from the Canadian Armed Forces to civilian authorities. The BCDs have increasingly been called to provide assistance when natural disasters have occurred. So the slide I have here, and I won't go through it in great detail because of being too time consuming, but this is just how the Canadian Army is modernizing. Currently and traditionally, we've had a division structure of 5 divisions in the regional areas, and they were more regional organizations rather than a true military division in the sense of the word. So to that end, come this fall, it's going to be reorganized into what you see the maneuver division, which will consist of most of the regular force or full-time units, where the British Columbia Dragoons, along with the reservists, will be formed into what's called currently called the Defense of Canada Division. Now, while this division is made of entirely of reservists and expected to respond to domestic operations, there will also be a requirement for it to augment the maneuver division overseas to fill any gaps as required, as we're currently doing, supporting the NATO mission in Latvia. This one. Oh, there we go. Okay, apologies, I had another slide that didn't quite make it. It was just to outline the presence that the Canadian Army has in Canada, as we currently have both reserve and full reg force units scattered throughout the country, like well over 100 in communities, as small as Moose Jaw to communities as the size of Toronto. But this slide here, and again, I won't go through it in great detail, but this just highlights the number of missions that reservists have been called out on since 2023. Op Lentis, which is the all-encompassing name for CAF's response, or the Canadian Armed Forces response to domestic operations. The two on there, numbers 5 and 8, both of those saw large numbers of the Dragoons deploy to support those operations. As you remember, the 2023 wildfire season, we had at least 24 Dragoons deploy not only in the interior, but also up north, northern BC as well, in support of the Canadians that were in the time of need. And while it's not on this slide here, if you recall back to 2021 with the atmospheric river that basically cut off the lower mainland from the rest of the province, and let alone the country, we also had soldiers deploying out there, filling sandbags, helping out Canadians in their time of need. So what this all means and why we're here today is just to share for the fact that, one, the Canadian Army is modernizing to better serve Canada as well as our partners and allies, but also just to demonstrate how much reservists are contributing to, and especially the Dragoons are contributing to that. We're here really with two simple requests. The first is that we ask your support enabling Canadians to serve in the Canadian Army and the primary reserve. Some of you may have reservists or may know other people who have reservists working for them. And if they do come to you or do come to your colleagues asking for time off to do Army training or in support of the Army, it's a legitimate purpose. It's not just to have a holiday or have some time off their regular job. They're there to actually serve their fellow Canadians, especially those that are in a great time of need. And secondly, we'd also ask that if you invite us to your various organizations to deliver a similar presentation to explain what the Canadian Army, especially here in the Okanagan Valley, what it's doing for its citizens. And that concludes my presentation, sir. If there are any questions or comments, that'll be.
Thank you very much, Colonel Peters and Colonel Colbert. Colbert, was it? Sorry. Telford. Sorry, I'm hearing impaired. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming out tonight and speaking to us. I really appreciate it. I did get to see you speak with the regional district, and I was quite amazed at the amount of work that local Dragoons are doing in our area, and I'm glad you were able to come out here tonight. I will just ask any of my council if they have any questions. Councillor Weiner.
Thank you, Your Worship, and yeah, just thank you for your service, and I really appreciate the versatility of the forces, especially as we have our fires and we're able to use them in different ways. I was curious about the requests for leave. So if a member was going to go do extra training, they have to request leave, and that's at the discretion of the employer. There's no leaves that are guaranteed.
There still isn't, and it really depends on what sector you're in. Like in the public sector, it's a lot easier. Like, for example, I work with the provincial government in my civilian job as a sheriff, and in there, like in our union contract, it's pretty much it's written in there the amount of time off that we request. But for some that work in the private sector, oftentimes is you're at, the lack of a better term, you're at the mercy of your employer for getting that time off, not just for, say, deploying on operations, but even just getting your base regular training done. And times in some cases, that's where the issue comes, where you have a reservist who joins, who wants to do the training, but can't get the time off for the training. So then they either stay in their particular rank and can't move forward, or they just, you know what, I can't do this anymore. So they get out, and, you know, we don't want to do that when we've already spent so much time and effort in training these folks. You know, we want to keep them, but also want to keep them employed as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see the challenge with employers trying to maintain their place of business at the same time, the employees, and like you said, the training goes in. So I mean, our hats off the businesses that support that. And yeah, hopefully we can find other ways to support that as well. Thanks.
Councillor Bellstar.
Thank you very much. Yeah, excellent presentation. Definitely highlighting all the ways that you guys help our community and everything. Just curious, I know that you said Kelowna and Vernon. I imagine the Armstrong and North Okanagan people all train in Vernon, correct?
That's right.
Yes, okay. And for them to reach out, there's a website that they can get more information at?
There is, usually our website will have our recruiting contact information on there, and that's the best person to get a hold of. Our recruiters have done an outstanding job.
Excellent, thank you.
Nobody else looking? Okay, well, thank you very much again, gentlemen. We really appreciate your service to our country and to our communities. And thank you very much again for presenting to us tonight.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have the Armstrong Wetlands Association with Marge Sidney and Michelle Hill, and they're going to give us an update on the Okanagan Street Wetland Project. Good afternoon.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm having some technical difficulty. My computer is having a lag. So if you could just give me one moment to fix that, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
you.
We'll just pause for a second then.
Sure, I'm just going to move the water so that I don't accidentally drink that. Awesome. Thank you. Your worship and counselors, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to show you the progress that we've had on our wetland. Okay, so we did an update presentation, I think, late 2024. Yeah, prior to building the pond. So now we have the pond. Blue? I might need you to, oh, it worked?
You've gone too far. There we go.
Okay, so we're going to discuss project overview, location, objective. Oh, I should introduce Marge. She's the treasurer with Armstrong Wetlands, sorry. And I am the vice chair of Armstrong Wetlands. So we're going to go over the project overview, location, objectives, and rationale, creation of the open water pond. And our aim was to increase biodiversity and future construction of a walkway and viewing platform with educational signage so that everyone can go to the pond and see how great it is. So in case you don't know, it's on Okanagan Avenue. Okanagan Street, I always call it Avenue. Good thing you're here. The existing cattail marsh is 3,900 meters squared, and you can see on the ortho photo that it was exclusively a cattail marsh. So our objectives of this project, we wanted to increase the habitat and species biodiversity by having an open water area within the wetland area, and we created a hummock and we planted it with native trees and shrubs. So that is based on the moisture levels we made sure that the native trees and shrubs would be intact, and it would also act as a cover from the street to protect the pond. We applied for funding to complete the final phase of the project. And that was in 2026, and we're continuing to do that. What we'd like to do is to construct a mobility accessible walkway and viewing platform. So it's going to be aluminum with rails on either side and educational signage so that we can have people go along the boardwalk, take a 90 up to the viewing platform and look over the pond, and then have educational signage for everyone as well. And in the future, we'd like to complete a species inventory to determine the uplift. So what was there prior to the pond, and then what is going to be there post pond. So the reason we did this is, as I mentioned, it's a monoculture of cattails. There was 38 species of vegetation present around the perimeter, including invasives and native species. There was 11 wildlife species present, 0 species at risk, and red-winged blackbird and song sparrow were actively nesting in the site. So there wasn't a lot of activity in there. So with the open water habitat adjacent to Megan Creek, there is no surface connection to Megan Creek. We excavated the 397.3 meters squared open water pond. It's a 2-meter depth to prevent the encroachment of cattails. There's a 4.5 meter island and 115 meters squared hummock, which we planted with trees and shrubs. The goal is to enhance species biodiversity and have over 100 native trees and shrubs planted. There's actually 115 native trees and shrubs planted. There's 49 species expected in the pond, and we expect 69 bird species within currently using the local lagoon and wildlife habitat, and benefit the community aesthetically and ecologically. So in 2025, we built the pond in January, and the hummock we planted and created a pocket forest in April. We've been monitoring the trees and shrubs on the hummock. They're doing fantastic. We have very low mortality. 90
to 95%
survival rate. Yep. So huge success. We're watering the trees and shrubs when necessary. We've been weeding Canada thistle, and there's something else that we're
Canada thistle.
We're participating in public relation events to raise awareness, and we're applying for more grants to do this. So far we've raised $56,265, and that was to fund the pond and the hummock excavation, the plants, everything that we did there. So thank you to all our donors, and this is all our accomplishments. Marge is going to go through the photos.
So, yeah, a few photos just to show you what we did. So in late 2024, we actually laid out the amphibian fencing and the actual perimeter of the pond. And the 4x8 billboard that you see, you can see it from Okanagan Street when you drive by. And let me see, how does this?
The right.
Oh, it's the right one, sorry. So we hired Timberspan Road Services, local company, to bring in their excavator. And this was, as Michelle said, it was done in January. So digging down 2 meters deep, and you can see that the various photos, the one in the bottom right-hand corner, to build the island, rather than piling dirt on top, we actually excavated around it so that the land that was already there would be intact. That way we would have fewer invasive plants. Once you disturb an area, then the invasives come in. And you can see that there is woody debris in the form of logs with root wads being placed, and they go from shore into the water so that birds or any other creatures that need to get out can get out, or it's a place for actually just sitting, because our pond sides are steep, they're vertical. And most wetlands are not like that, but because we knew the water table would stay high, and we didn't want the encroachment of the cattails, that's why they're steep sided. So these trees and root wads will enable animals and birds and whatnot to actually get out of the pond if they so wish. Whoops, too far. So a lot of the material that was excavated from the pond was used to build the hummock. And this, it's not all just one big hump. It's actually excavated to different heights. And we actually had him bring in a couple of large boulders and more woody debris just to provide the diversity of habitat. So these two figures are, to the left is when the pond and hummock were under construction, and the one to the right is actually completion. So once it was complete, now we have all this disturbed soil. And to prevent invasives coming in, we seeded anything that was low level, like the level that the pond is at, with riparian native seed mix. And the hummock area was seeded with upland seed mix, all native seed. And then you can see the straw. It's clean wheat straw, weed-free. And that was spread for 3 reasons. One, we didn't want the birds and rodents to find the seed. And number 2, it helps to prevent invasives from popping up. And number 3, it keeps the ground moist. Just think of it as mulch that you would put in a garden or a flower bed, that type of thing. Keeps the ground moist. So we brought in more woody debris that we could place on the hummock. And also there was we had the tops of a couple of birch trees, and they were actually planted around the edge. We didn't think that they would live, but it just provides an extra structure of habitat so that birds could perch on these and just give more accessibility and diversity of habitat. And you can see the canoe in there in the bottom actually put more woody debris and whatnot on the island itself. So in April, once we had all the plants, they were on order and they arrived. You can see them in the top left there. We actually went ahead and laid them out according to their requirements. So plants that wanted wet feet could be down lower next to the water level, and plants that required more dry were up higher on the hummock. So we were very fortunate that we had the PVSS high school students come, and also the AIAO students from Fulton School in Vernon. And we had quite a large number of students come. It was great. Mr. Kim Fulton was there to give them a little bit of a lecture on planting. The top middle picture, we actually did some soil amendments. We had Mikey and also some biochar. So once the students were let loose and they found their particular pot that they were going to plant, dug a hole, and a couple of handfuls of amendments were added to the hole just to give the plants a little bit of an extra boost. And you can see the pin flags in the bottom right-hand corner. The small plants, we didn't want to lose track of them, because once we knew the vegetation would grow, it might overshadow the small little plants. So the colors of the flags don't mean anything. It's just a location of those small plants. So this photo on the left was taken last summer. So the pond looks pretty darn nice. And then the hummock on the top right. And, you know, things were looking really good last year. The one thing that we did in the bottom right-hand corner, we had a cold snap in January of this year, and we finally had 4 inches of ice on our pond. So we were able to walk out safely, and we installed a staff gauge because we just want to monitor if there are water level changes. And right now I can say that since the staff gauge was put in January, the water level has dropped about 8 centimeters. So far, what we've done this year, I've already mentioned the staff gauge, and some educational signage have already been designed and printed, and we actually have 2 here today that we'd like to show you a little later. We've participated in 5 PR events, and we've weeded, we've checked the plants, do they need watering? And no, we found that the plants are doing really well. We've checked our staff gauge, and one interesting thing that we did in June is I did a plankton haul just to see what the primary producers are. They are the bottom of the food chain, and we actually did another sample just this afternoon, and I'd like to show you those after as well. And we're constantly applying for grants. So what are we wanting to do next? So this is an artist rendition of our a walkway and viewing platform. So, okay, so we've now figured that we need to raise another $150,000 to complete the project. And we have been applying for grants like crazy and not been very successful. 8 grants, we've only been successful with 1. We're not giving up though. We are struggling to raise funds, but what we've decided to do is to divide the project into 2. The most important part is the T, the perpendicular arm that actually goes from Megan Creek to the pond, towards the pond. So we're calling that phase 1, and phase 2 would be the walkway that goes along Megan Creek. So the estimate for the first phase, this is just a rough ballpark, is perhaps $75,000. And we currently have, you know, 36,000 and whatnot. We got a ways to go. So we're hoping that we can raise the remainder of the money and that construction can take place next winter. And that would be to lessen the impacts. And the important part is to be able to have the school groups and the general public to actually get out there and learn and see, because we'd have the educational signage already on the viewing platform. And so it would be just awesome. It's right in the center of town. It would be wheelchair or disabled type accessible because it would be gently rising up to the viewing platform. And as Michelle said, once you're on the viewing platform, you'd be able to see over the cattails and into the pond. So phase 2, it's not essential at this time, but we're hoping that we could complete that. The other thing that we would like to do is the wooden bridge that's currently right at Okanagan Street. We haven't asked for this, but we'll just put it out there now. We would like to replace it with an aluminum bridge and have it as part of phase 2, but it's not in the section 11. That's been done by Hill Environmental, the environmental assessment, impact assessment, and that's currently in your hands. So this is just another rendition of what we're looking at. So you can see the long blue line is next to Megan Creek. That would be phase 2. Phase 1 would be the perpendicular T off of that, with the pink area being the viewing platform. And it would come to within about 5 meters of the pond. So this is our educational signs that we've already completed. So we talk about the flora and fauna, the hummock and the pocket forest, why and how we built the pond, invasive species, and the history of why we have wetlands in the community. Once the phase 1 is complete, we'll put a thank you sign on the viewing platform just to thank all of our sponsors and contributors, that sort of thing. So we do have a couple of things that we'd like to show you, but that would basically conclude the presentation. And if there are any questions, please.
Why don't we have a look at your show and tell, and we'll see if that generates any more questions.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a couple of signs back here that we've made, and we did some. Yeah, grab one. So I don't know if any of you have seen plankton before, but this primary how I look at it is if I look at through the microscope or the lens here, and you can see all the little creatures in the light here. You can see them moving around, and a whole bunch of butterflies in there. And right on the whole side of the pond. So there are 2 types of plankton. There are plant plankton, which is the bottom of the food chain, and they are called phytoplankton. And then there's the zooplankton, or the animal plankton. And the animal plankton eats the plant plankton. And then the bugs eat the zooplankton, and then the birds and the fish eat that. So you can see them swimming around your hand. And these are a couple of the signs that we were able to design and build. And they will be on the viewing platforms. The one thing that is really kind of interesting for us is there are very few mosquitoes around there because there's so much life in that pond and wetland right now that it's all part of the food chain. And so the concerns of the residents to the west are fortunately unfounded because things are really working out
land.
nice. We're really, really proud of our wetland and the hummock. The things, we were just there today and the trees and shrubs are growing like crazy and yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you. Councilor Weiner has a question.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say, thank you. It's a tremendous amount of work, and we are blessed to have such knowledgeable people working in the society to keep this rolling. And I really appreciate the role and the active engagement with our youth, that they're able to get their hands on things and get out there and do things in our community. So that's fantastic for me. I'm looking forward to seeing phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 looks amazing for especially accessibility and people be able to see it up close. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask. I'm curious, how long does a platform like that typically last in a wetland? Like, is it something that degrades quickly over time, or does it last?
It's going to be on screw piles and it's made of aluminum similar to a dock. So we probably have a lifespan of probably 25, 30 years before maybe minor repairs need to be done. Yeah, and it's going to be fabricated off-site and then it's going to be placed on the screw piles with a crane.
Thank you.
One thing I should mention, I'll speak with my Trail Society hat on. At the end of this month or the beginning of August, we're going to put a trail counter right on that wooden bridge on Okanagan Street. So we'll have a really good idea of how many people are using the trail.
Thank you, ladies, and the ladies and the gentlemen that are also helping you and not sitting forefront at the Inquisition table. I remember you coming, well, probably I talked to Jill long before you ever approached City Hall, and the enthusiasm that the volunteers at Armstrong have are got to be second to none. So I see a lot of the trails, Armstrong and Bloom, wetlands people, they duplicate. So always with any kind of a project, funding becomes a concern, and you've got a little ways to go there. But with the enthusiasm that you've got, I'm sure you'll get there somehow. So do you have plans for other fundraising other than applying for grants? I know that's where you're going to get the big grants, but do you have like some community fundraising that you're thinking of establishing?
Well, we're doing our PR events and at that time we are asking for help. Our memberships go towards, our bank account and our project. So
We have a number at co-op.
Oh,
And
right.
we've gone around and approached at markets and given out the card and asked people when they fill it once in a while to just use our co-op number.
Right.
So that's in place.
And Bottle Depot as well, or
Pardon?
do you have an account at the Bottle Depot? People take their bottles down.
No, thank you. We will do that.
Yay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway, I do look forward to seeing this in completion as well. And Colleen wanted to say something. Is that okay?
Yeah.
One other fundraiser.
Good reminder. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Anybody that didn't hear that, there's a painting that's been donated. It's at the museum, and there's a silent auction running on that for fundraising. Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Your Worship. Some of us were at a meeting the other day at Drax, and they were mentioning they have a community fund that they have a bucket of money in that they wanted to give to the worthwhile places. Have you been to them yet?
We applied to Drax for $10,000 and unfortunately they were oversubscribed and that was one of the ones that we were not successful on.
keep trying then. They keep saying they got money, so take it.
Councillor Belster.
Thank you very much. Yes, the enthusiasm is wonderful. I love it. I do. I am, so this is gonna come across as maybe not a silly question, but someone who doesn't know a lot about this kind of stuff. You're doing a lot of planting and all that kind of stuff. Is when you guys say that you're gonna do a species inventory, that's a species inventory on the insects and amphibian life that's gonna make their way there and the wildlife and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like a build it and they will come kind of situation. You don't put any species into the pond. They just figure it out.
Not allowed to. We would-
Not allowed to. Okay.
Not allowed to. We would love to see painted turtles show up.
I'd love
Oh,
for her to-
well then.
We've had muskrat, we've had a beaver before they were removed. We had a beaver come and chew one of our shrubs,
Yeah.
which is, it's growing up from the bottom. Lots of different bird species. We'd love to see yellow-headed blackbirds come back. They used to be, not to say common, but they were in our area in the past. So there are a number of things that we would really like to see move in on their own.
One more thing, you just reminded me of something I was gonna say. Can you kind of push the enthusiasm and maybe have somebody paint a duck and have it on the log, or a turtle like they have at the Shuswap there by the Prestige? I think it'd be kind of fun to pique the curiosity of people looking over there thinking, oh, look. See how long it takes to get back to you. We could do
Okay.
we could do a painting project.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm actually really also glad to hear that I haven't been made aware of any complaints since we're at this stage of the project. There was a little adversity to it prior to starting and I walk by it daily and it's great just to see it. Noticed some Canadian goose pairs in there that were not happy watching people going by. And I just was curious, you said that you only lost 8 centimeters of water?
Yes,
out of the pond?
roughly, since January, when the staff gauge went in, we have been monitoring the gauge and it's lost about this much water.
Which seems really minimalistic considering.
We don't expect it to lose much more.
No.
Because that's the reason, I mean, you folks probably know why we have a monoculture cattail wetland there. I mean, it was all farmland. And then roughly, 50 years ago, when all the development happened in the area with homes and businesses, and they're preloading because it's wetter soil. And when you preload, it raises the water table up. And so eventually the Chinese couldn't farm. So that's why.
And the
That's-
water table when we started was at least 6 centimeters below
Oh.
ground.
Yeah.
So the water table naturally sits that high and it's, it's also shaded. So the trees and shrubs also act as a shade to prevent evaporation as well. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
To prevent evaporation as well. So
Well, and then also being at Jesse's Metal Fest on the, just recently, I was riding my bike home at night and it's amazing how cool, the rest of the area is hot.
Yeah.
But you ride by that wetland and it's really impacted the environment there. It's so cool riding along there.
Well, really nice to see the successes that you're having down there and that we're all getting to enjoy and I look forward to the expansion with the pathways and the bridges for accessibility.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank you.
having us.
yes, thank you.
And up next, we're moving into a presentation of reports. So right off the bat, we have a notice of motion will be introduced by Councillor Todd. Just for Councillor to be aware that there's no debate or discussion on this. It's just an advisory per se, and there is no vote. So we'll listen to what Councillor Todd has to tell us.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to provide notice of a motion that I intend to bring forward for consideration at the August 10th, 2026 regular council meeting. That motion is that council directs staff to report back to a future council meeting on the applicability of section 4.4 of the Good Neighbor Bylaw to 2485 Okanagan Street regarding an assessment of whether the boulevard maintenance requirements apply to that property. Under procedure, this is notice only, so I look forward to discussing the motion when it comes before council on August the 10th.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Up next will be item 5.2, and I guess, Mr. Smith, you have a short report for us? Knocked
Already
off
just
guard, didn't it?
having a little technical difficulty there with the computer. So before you this evening, Mayor and Council, we have a request from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Under the legal authority, they are required to receive permission from private property owners. That being on the 16th of August. There will be the hosting of the RCMP musical ride. With that event, the Air Services is hoping to set up a static display, and for it to take place from 1 p.m. till 5 p.m. To allow that to happen, the City of Armstrong and the Township of Swallowmachine, being joint ownerships of this property, are required to provide written approval for the landing to ensure that we meet Transport Canada aviation regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So is there a mover for the motion? Councillor Todd, and seconded by Councillor Weiner. Thank you. And first I'll open up this questions. Not seeing any. Oh, Councillor Weiner, yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm just curious, where would the LZ be on the grounds there?
It's a good question that I don't have an answer to. We did put an inquiry in, but I didn't receive one back at this time.
Sounds good. I'm sure everyone will use good common sense and where it can and can't work. So yeah, that's just why I'm curious.
Yes.
Mr. Seibel.
Thank you, Your Worship. The RCMP had indicated that they were planning to land on the north side of the rodeo grounds on the grass. Yep.
And just redirect to Mr. Smith, with the Transport Canada regulations, I believe we'll have to have the fire department out for the landing because it's a regularly scheduled landing as opposed to an emergency landing. And then if that is the case, they would also be able to probably wet down the area for dust control prior to the landing event. I'll throw that back at you.
Thank you for your comments. I'll make sure that they're carried forward to the organizing group.
Any further questions? Not seeing any, then I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that will be carried unanimously. Up next, we have a Human Resources Policy Update by Mr. Seibel.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is a continuation of the ongoing policy manual review that has started a couple meetings ago with the information being brought forward. Tonight in front of you is the review of the HR section of the policy manual. There is a detailed explanation within the report of all the individual policies, the majority of which are just being updated to our current template format. There's no substantive changes or intent to the policies. There are a couple of amended policies just to bring current and to expand on more relevant or more current legislation and practices. The one new policy 3-300-1 employment of relatives is simply documenting the procedural process for consideration of relatives of being hired by the city. There wasn't anything in place beforehand, so this was just to try and put some structure to that. And then there's two policies that are being rescinded. By and large, both of them are because we have our detailed occupational health and safety plan that covers those things now, so they can be rescinded. So hoping council's had a chance to review the reports and available for any questions if there are any.
All right, so as we move forward this, that the following policy, or we'll be looking for a motion, the following policy be approved as presented, Unit 3-300-1, employment of relatives. Do we have a mover? Councillor Todd, seconded Councillor Valstar. Any questions on that? Councillor Weiner?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think first question is can you just take me through the process, like the internal process of how these policies and discussion and how they come to the table here? I'm just curious about stakeholder discussions or what other policies and stuff that might be considered.
Sure. So specific to this policy, what prompted this was my son applying for one of the student jobs. And when the application was submitted, we started to review internally what the processes were for how we consider this. I think everybody is aware that we also have a similar situation outside when Kerry was here with his son also working for the city. So that's what prompted the, okay, what do we do to provide structure? So in that particular situation, we worked through building the policy, even though we weren't able to get it in front of council at the time when that took place, in order to have some structure. And so that's how this one came to be, to bring forward.
So a follow-up, I guess that's more the consultation outside of that. I appreciate it. And I think this is a great policy to have. It clarifies a lot of language. My understanding is that the fire department also falls under the same policies. And I guess part of my concern is looking at this, there's a lot of relatives that work in the fire department together. And looking at the overall policy itself and what it's meant to achieve, it makes sense to me. But however, looking at some of the granular situations, I start to wonder a little bit. So you have situations where a father and son may respond together to a scene, and one of them may end up being incident command, or they might be a team leader for that situation. I'm just curious how that may or may not be incorporated.
So thank you for the question. So this policy was specifically built with the city's operations in mind, excluding fire and excluding Parks and Recs in terms of our own, because of the joint ownership issues, how those are being done. So this wasn't built with the fire department in mind. There is a sort of a concurrent process going on with the ongoing service reviews and the policy reviews for the what are called the fire commission policies, for example, within the fire department. So if there's something that we need to change or introduce or do later for that, it'll be separate from what this is entailing right now.
So I guess I'm not clear. Does this apply to the fire department or does it not?
The short answer is no. But this is one of those anomalies because we also have Parks and Rec policies that are being dealt with as well because they're not relevant in the current structure. If we need to amend this at a future time to consider that, we'll bring forward those in due process as well.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that addresses my concern, and yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Any further questions? I can see it presenting some challenging scenarios, given the specific situation this policy was introduced for. It could be a challenge for the CAO to stay out of business, and I think it describes what will occur, but I can understand a peer pressure from the people below the CAO level in these decision makings, and I'm still comfortable moving forward with it, but I don't know there's a way you can get around it. So on that note, I will call the vote. All those in favor? That will be carried. And then next portion, that the following amended policies be approved as presented: 300-5, the risk management policy; 300-6, the employee performance review; 300-7, the exempt staff benefit package; and 300-11, the retirement program. They have a mover for that. Councillor Valstar, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Fowler. And questions? Councillor Weiner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I read through it. A lot of it makes sense to me. I had two questions. One is around the sick days. I think it was 150 days was where it maxed out. What happens at the end of employment, or what happens with those sick days?
So right now there's nothing on the exempt side for how those are handled. There are potential discussions about that, but nothing on the table right now for how those are handled.
And just like more of a follow-up comment, I think maybe for our future considerations is if I'm not sure what leeway you have or flexibility you have with the current agreements as far as listening to the Dragoons talking about service and what opportunities there might be there for other members for public service of some kind. So it's just something, a comment more than anything.
Yeah, valid point. We also got into a few other things regarding accumulated sick time upon retirement, vacation days, carryover, all sorts of things. And I think the discussion leads, it'll be on a case-by-case basis. So any further questions on that? Not seeing any, then I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that will be carried. And the final is that the following policies be rescinded: 300-3, the medical emergency procedure, and 300-4, accident reporting and investigations procedures, which are now covered under a total different umbrella. Mover, Councillor Todd, and seconded by Councillor Fowler. Any questions? Not seeing any. I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that will be carried. Under 5.4, election staff remuneration policy, report by Ms. Weiss.
Thank you, Your Worship. This policy is before you. Policy is the buzzword of the night, also followed by elections, buzzword of the night, prompted by the upcoming election and the need to review all policies related to the election. I'm presenting to you an updated, election staff remuneration policy, essentially with the goal of supporting election planning, budgeting, and recruitment while we're making sure that we're guided by formal policy. I've included quite a bit of detail in the report. I'm happy to answer any more detailed or specific questions of council. And it's my recommendation that amended election staff remuneration policy be approved as presented in the July 20th report by the Manager of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Do we have a mover? Councillor Weiner, seconded by Councillor Valstar. Questions? I had just one question on there under the external election workers. Is it correct that it's $23 an hour?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Is that standardized wages? Seems awful low to me.
Unfortunately, there is no such thing as standardized election remuneration in the province. We did quite a thick and robust search around the province. It ranges anywhere from minimum wage up to I think the max I saw was about $46 an hour, but that was for presiding election officials who didn't have a deputy chief election officer or a chief election officer in the room working the elections those days to oversee things. So maybe in larger centers for SWO where budget's a little more robust and where they're tasked with a lot more responsibility within the polling rooms. This is pretty typical of the area based on our population and our election or elector turnout for the past few elections.
Thank you very much. There's no further questions. I will call the vote. All those in favor? This also shall be carried. Up next is 5.5, proclamations, declarations, and civic recognition policy, again by Ms. Weiss.
Thank you again, Your Worship. Another policy for Council's review tonight, and this one is specifically a new policy that replaces the current proclamations policy. I'm seeking Council's approval on this update as part of our broader review. As you're seeing, a lot of policies come forward. Further, a few items have come up, and what prompted this most recently was the approval of the Legion crosswalk that Council approved, and we all see up near Memorial Park, and some of the ways that we recognize the partners and the community groups and the stakeholders right here in the city of Armstrong. This proposed policy replaces the existing policy, essentially with a clearer and more comprehensive framework. It reconfirms that we don't issue proclamations and declarations, but what's new is that it adds to the policy in a separate section a framework for council authorized civic recognition actions such as the crosswalk or, the Legion crosswalk or the Pride sidewalk that was approved. It matches what council has generally done over the past 4 years in practice. And I think that it provides staff and the public a little bit more detailed framework when council is saying yes or no to things. For that reason, there are definitely two different distinct resolutions here. The first one, I propose that council approves proclamations, declarations, and civic recognition policy 245 and a separate resolution proposal that council repeals the former proclamations, declarations, or endorsement of outside organizations or their programs policy number 238. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's see if we can approve one first of all. The council approves the proclamation, declaration, and civic recognition policy 200-45. Do we have a mover? Councillor Weiner, seconded Councillor Valstar. Was there any questions? Councillor Todd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just, I don't have a question particularly. I like the way this sort of opens up that we can recognize some volunteerism and things like that we didn't really have the ability to do before, or at least opens it up more that it's on the table. We don't have to run around and figure out how to do it. It's there for that ability.
Further questions? No, I will then call the vote. All those in favor? And that will be carried. And next, that council repeals proclamation, declaration, and or endorsement of outside organizations or their program policies, policy 200-38. A mover, Councillor Fowler, second, Councillor Todd. Any questions to that one? Not seeing any. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? This will be carried. Thank you. And next, the repeal of corporate administration policies. Once again, Ms. Weiss, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, some consideration of the corporate administration section of our current policy manual has been reviewed in detail, as you can see just by tonight's agenda, in addition to others. But this series of repeals is asking council to repeal the public hearing process policy, request for permissions to hold tag days, bottle drives, etc. policy, the internal complaint mechanism policy, and the disclosure of gifts or benefits policy, namely because they're obsolete and they are all covered in either legislation or statutory guidelines and or other policies and more recent policies, including some of the ones that you just approved this evening. There's nothing that isn't covered somewhere else that gives you the mechanisms to do all of these things. And I've detailed that in the report. Again, so happy to answer any more specific questions instead of going through things in detail for you tonight. Therefore, it is my recommendation that those 4 policies be repealed effective immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have a mover on that? Councillor Valstar, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Weiner. Is there any questions? Nice housekeeping. All those in favor? And will pass. And up next, we have a strategic plan update from Mr. Simon.
Thank you, Worship. So this report is just a regular quarterly update on the strategic plan for this council. Not anticipating being able to get the third quarter report in just because of the timing with the election and stuff. So took the opportunity to try and map out all of the things that are completed, and you'll see that as part of the attachment of the strategic plan, all of the things that council's accomplished over the last 4 years. And in the discussion section of the report, identified sort of the update on the things that are outstanding. So the reservoir project is moving ahead. The procurement process was completed, and the initial kickoff meeting has happened for that. Phase 2 of that project, which is the transmission line component, there's ongoing conversations with the township in terms of what that process will look like. I actually have some meetings later this week in that regard. We're continuing to make progress on the fire and Parks and Rec service review and making some progress there, which is good. There will be a bit of a broader update in August on a couple of the bigger projects, the 15-year capital asset management plan stuff. So that'll be coming forward, which will be important documents as it sets the tone for the new council, whoever might be there, is on where we're at and the things that are being faced across the city. And then a few other, like I said, the policy manual updates that are ongoing. The trailhead concept in support of the rail trail for hydro progress is moving forward. I had a conversation with CN Rail last week as well. We were able to walk parts of it so they get a sense of what's going on within the downtown revitalization area, as well as along Pleasant Valley Road for the future potential connection when the rail trail gets to our city boundaries. So a lot of positive things going on, a lot of progress that made, a lot of accomplishments that this council's had. I've only been here just over a year, so many of the things that were started were well in advance of that. But certainly able to answer any questions for anything that's in the strategic plan itself if there's questions you have of me. So.
Thank you. We'll be looking for a motion that the report titled Strategic Plan Update Second Quarter 2026 be received for information. Councillor Todd and Councillor Weiner. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Weiner.
Just more a comment, if this is my last opportunity to comment on this, is I think we all know that staff are the ones who got this done. And there's been an incredible amount of work done over the last 4 years. And I just want to say thank you. There's been a lot of challenges along the way with staffing changes and everything else, and the work got done. And I just want to say thank you. You did an incredible job.
Councillor Fowler.
Ditto.
Yeah, I think we will all echo Councillor Weiner's comments. Sometimes we presented you with some challenges and you overcame each and every time. So thank you very much for your hard work on that. Next, we will call the vote. All those in favor. And that will be carried. Up next, the Water Reservoir Supply Line Project by Mr. Martins, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you this evening is a proposed amendment to the financial plan. The Water Reservoir Supply Line Project currently in the financial plan is $10,246,000 and change, and encompasses 3 different years of the 5-year financial plan. Since the budget was adopted, the project was phased into 2 phases, with phase 1 being the construction of the new reservoir and a short section of the transmission line, and then the remainder of the transmission line as phase 2 for 2027. So essentially, this amendment is a realignment of that project, with the total cost, overall cost, not changing at this point, but again, realigning from 3 years into 2 years, with a higher concentration for 2026 taking place. The funding sources for this project would remain the same, as it would be approximately $1.5 million from water reserves and the rest from long-term borrowing through the loan authorization bylaw that Council adopted earlier this year, totaling no more than $8.7 million. With the higher concentration of borrowing in 2026, there is also a need to increase the 2026 debt interest budget, the interest expense budget, from $23,200 to $45,530. And that particular increase in cost would be funded partially by additional recoveries from the Township of Smalmachine, and with the remaining amount being funded through reduced transfers to the water reserve this year. The amount of the budget for 2027 is being kept at the remainder of the cost of the project after the RFP was issued for the phase 1. That particular cost is estimated to be $5,460,000. So phase 2, the final cost for that is yet to be determined again through the 2027 budget deliberations. But at this point in time, the remaining $4.786 million is the remainder of the overall budget that is in place right now. So the realignment is also necessary through the budget amendment because of the need for temporary borrowing that is going to be happening shortly here. The temporary borrowing bylaw will be coming to Council very shortly, and that borrowing then will mirror what is shown in the amended budget if Council approves that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martins. So we'll need a mover that Council approved the amended to 2026-2030 financial plan for the Water Reservoir Supply Line Project. I don't think I need to read the whole motion, do I? Looking at you, Chantal.
If you can successfully summarize it and still get the point across, I can accept that, Mr. Mayor, or I can assist you with that.
We'll look at the changes that Mr. Martins has made. Essentially, no more funds, just in a shorter time frame. Let's go with that. Do we have a mover on that? Councillor Valstar, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Todd. And questions? Councillor Fowler.
Not a question, just an observation. You know, I've been sitting around the table for a little while, and the numbers are staggering and sometimes I wonder like, what the heck, couldn't we get, so-and-so to build this a lot cheaper? And the comment I want to make is that we started talking about a reservoir years ago and we never got going on it. And it might have cost half the cost it is right now. So as staggering as these numbers are, coming from the regional district and the situation that they are without enough water right now, we hear a lot of comments, why didn't you get on this sooner? Why were you not planning for this? As if you can plan for a lack of water for 3 years. But again, my point is that here we are being proactive, and as tough as it is to have to go borrow money and see all these digits in there, we have to look at this as a positive thing that we're doing for the future. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Any further comments or questions? Not seeing any then, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And this also will pass. 5.9, the parking study considerations. Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is a follow-up on direction from council to introduce parking study as one of the outcomes of the Armstrong Revitalization Initiative. This report basically highlights what the process is that's required to conduct a parking study, makes a recommendation that we consider primarily, well, only the historic downtown for the location of the parking study, and then recommends that we include this in the 2027 budget deliberations so that we have time to integrate funding and so that we can include it in our work planning for next year.
Thank you. So there will be a motion that the parking study encompass the historic downtown area shown on the map contained within the July 20th, 2026 report titled Parking Study Considerations from the Manager of Planning Services, and that staff bring forward an associated budget considerations through 2027 budget process. Do we have a mover? Councillor Valstar, thank you. Second by Councillor Todd. And Councillor Nietzsche, I'll give you the first opportunity for a question.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair, just through Lori. Just for council's consideration, I'm fully supportive of advancing the recommendation, but I'm wondering if the polygon that is identified should be potentially extended to include the fairgrounds property. And the reason I bring that forward is that I think that the fairgrounds property may be wanting to be considered as part of sort of the overall parking plan related to the rail trail and as it's slowly developed and implemented in the community. And I'm just wondering if maybe the polygon should be extended at least to include that area for part of the planning discussion.
Direct that to you, Ms. Cornell.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Nietzsche. We certainly could include that area. I know there has been discussion of where rail trail parking will be. And of course, we're focused right now on developing a trailhead with primary parking, but depending on, of course, the success of the rail trail, there may be a need for more. This was mostly focused on, the downtown commercial core, but if we look at including that factor, we could certainly broaden the scope. I don't think it would make a significant change to the cost or the scope of the study.
Just for clarity, if I could still have the floor, Your Worship, to staff though, the BC Hydro area that is planned for the parking area was always kind of contemplated as more of an interim parking area. And it was always contemplated that the rail trail was designed to kind of promote economic development and benefit to the business community and driving those potential tourists and trail users into the downtown core to help those businesses. So I'm not quite sure if that's quite accurate to say that the hydro property is the primary trailhead. It may be. I always thought it was an interim solution, and we were always considering, or at least council had discussion about using the fairgrounds property or somewhere else as potential parking. So that's why I bring it up.
Councillor Nietzsche. Councillor Fowler.
I would suggest if we're going to do the fairgrounds, that we also do the strip below the railroad track all the way up in front of the park, because there could be access to the rail trail there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Worship. So two things. With regards to the inclusion of the IPE grounds, recognizing that it's jointly owned with the township, we would need to seek their I would say, support to include in the parking study. Not that that is necessarily a bad request. And secondly, as recently as last Thursday when I met with CN, they raised concerns again about the quote unquote parking along Pleasant Valley, across from Memorial and in front of Country West. So I would be hesitant to include that area as an identified parking area without getting some of the concerns from CN kind of under wrap first, because it's on their radar in that regard. But certainly if council wanted us to inquire with the township about the inclusion of the fairgrounds as part of that broader or longer term look, we can do that.
Councillor Nietzsche, do you still have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. And just speaking to the CAO Sibyl's commentary there, I totally agree that as it's jointly owned property, it completely makes sense that we would include the co-owners in that property. I think that it would be welcome from the Parks and Recreation Commission, given the fact that the commission had directed management at the time to look into parking policies and parking planning in there. So this may kill two birds with one stone in terms of addressing some of the parking challenges down there as well. So if we're looking at it, and if depending on what route we go, whether it's internal or external consultant that's going to help design it, it may help to create a bit of a plan for parking down there as well for other events that are occurring down on the fairgrounds as well.
One more little thing, well, not a big thing, I'm thinking of big vehicles, because we've had concerns with people coming in towing trailers and motorhomes and whatnot, and our parking downtown that had trouble accommodating those oversized vehicles. Actually having a designated place away from downtown would, is that part of the study to talk about the oversized vehicles? To get them maybe in front of the businesses when we're going to be limited?
Through your worship to Councillor Fowler, it certainly can be part of the study. I think we haven't defined it that clearly or developed a scope of like a terms of reference yet.
Councillor Todd? No, Councillor Weiner?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was looking at the study and I was thinking of the overall project, and I was looking at Smith as well. And I mean, there's a lot of parking within the businesses there, but we also have the south side of Smith where there's a lot of congestion and there's a mix of parking, and we were talking about reducing the stall for the new building there. And I'm curious if that's a consideration or if that was taken out for some reason, or if it would be possible to add that.
Through your worship to Councillor Rayner, I think Smith is a different beast, I would say, like a bit of a different challenge, and that we should look at that separately than the overall kind of parking challenges we're having downtown. I do think we need to look at Smith and some of the things that are going on there with sightlines particularly, and some of the congestion that's happening. But I think it could be separate from this downtown study because it's quite discrete from that problem. They don't really, like parking downtown doesn't impact parking on Smith so much. They're quite separate.
I'm just thinking in terms of the rail trail, it would be, there would be spillover into that area. I would almost be certain of it. I'm not sure what the overall impact would be unless, I mean, would be concerned about how it's going to impact the businesses there. And but I agree, the majority of the cyclist traffic would go down following the other routes. If there is an opportunity, like I said, my concern is the south side of Smith more than the north sides.
Yeah, I think Councillor Fowler's comments were really relevant here also. I think this might be a much bigger project than the scope that we've been provided with here tonight, especially talking about sightlines on Smith and how people navigate RVs or larger vehicles to get into town to visit. I think it's taken on a position of its own here. I don't think what's suggested tonight is actually going to get us to where we need to be. I think we need to send this back and have a little bit bigger look at it. Just my opinion, Councillor Weiner.
Yeah, my opinion, my thinking is that if it's a matter of trying to get this done for for when we open the section of Pleasant Valley Boulevard north. I think getting this study done, and then it'd be nice to incorporate it all so we can reduce the costs overall. But I don't want to delay getting our other policies in place as well. So I think this is a critical piece, if I recall, for getting some of those other policies in place, so that when we open up that section, that we can have those policies.
But I think this is for a work plan for the following year. This isn't something we're doing today. It's to send back. So I think maybe we need to readdress it in a larger piece overall. Ms. Cordell.
Your worship, I could offer a compromise and say that we take the first part where we look at the specific area. Sorry, the resolution's not up there right now. One sec. Thanks. So that it encompasses the historic downtown. Instead, maybe council direct staff to come back with a more specific terms of reference for the parking study, and then also budget considerations for 2027. So we could look at providing you with more of that specific information rather than this general information, and then bring that back with the budget considerations as well.
Councillor Todd.
Yeah, after listening to everybody, I think that we have to keep moving along, because as Councillor Fowler said, the longer you wait, the more it costs. So I have no problem just going ahead with this, knowing full well that we're going to be looking at other things as we march down the road. I'm fine with putting the other stuff in there as well, but I think I'm fine with just moving along with this. We're not going to look at, if we're not going to look at the IP and we're not going to look at the hydro property, then let's just look at this and get moving on and see what we can get away with.
Well, we have a motion, and we've had some discussion on it. I think that we need to expand the parking thing. I agree that we could continue on with this piece of work. It's not going to get done right away, and add to it, but that would mean changing the motion that sits in front of us now, or that could be a second project unto itself, is looking at the IPE and further parking issues that we're having throughout the community, and focusing on that in the future. Suggestions?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think the simplest way to do this is building off of what Ms. Cordell just indicated, is that essentially what would happen is instead of clearly delineating just the historic downtown, is that a scope of work be brought back that considers, so a parking study that considers the historic downtown, Smith Drive, the IP Fairgrounds, as basically a scope of work to that, so that we can bring that forward to say, here's what this would look like. And then during budget deliberations is where council will be able to refine the pieces of that to hone in, because we can provide a bit more context. Trying to do it on the fly is going to be a bit hard, adding in the other pieces, but that would essentially be what we would do, is we'd bring that scope of work to the budget process, which will happen right after the election, basically, as we get into it with the new council. So we can have that conversation and information available at that time, is what I would suggest.
Thank you. Councillor Nietzsche?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I agree with CEO Seibel. I think that just a motion directing staff to bring forward a scope of work and a work plan with budget considerations is appropriate. I think that we're essentially doing the same thing. We're just expanding the area. So I think we just need to give staff direction that way.
Councillor Wayner?
Yeah, I just want to be absolutely clear. Are there consequences that we ought to be aware of if we delay this parking study?
Through your worship to Councillor Rayner, this wouldn't really delay the parking study. I think what it does is it makes us just bring back a more detailed kind of outline of what the work would look like before council makes a decision on funding for it. That's going to have to happen anyways as we get closer. This is just kind of a high level of what a parking study looks like and what it includes. So I don't think it will impact the timelines significantly.
We keep talking about the 2027 budget that we'll be working on, or somebody will be working on starting this fall. what are we talking about for a timeline to have this study done? How long do you think it's going to take to get this study done?
I think that probably depends a bit on the scope of the study. So broadening out the scope, I think, is going to make it more complex, and gives us more areas that we need to do monitoring and evaluating. I think we could do it in one season. And I guess it also depends on if council decides to do it internally or externally, right? So I think right now it's a little bit hard to clearly define the timeline.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, we're still on number one, defined scope. So I think we just have to move ahead and say that those conversations we had and what Ryan said makes sense. Let's just go on from there.
So I'm clearly away. We're going to vote on the motion on the table, knowing that that's going to expand. Is that correct? Yep, we're all good with that? Yes? Councilor Belster?
Sorry, I just need you to clarify, what exactly are you proposing there then?
So what I'm saying is we have a motion that's been seconded that we need to vote on. This is our discussion. We've decided that we should move forward with this, knowing that it's going to expand and the report will come back to us for budget considerations. Yeah, Councilor Belster.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, no, sorry. I feel like we have a motion on the table and it's not the motion that we want to go forward with. So.
Okay, hence why I'm trying to clarify where the confusion, Ms. Weiss.
If I can provide some procedural help, I appreciate the opportunity. You do have a mover and a seconder on the motion that you're looking at on the big screen right now as it stands. I'm hearing council's appetite that you want the study area to be expanded. I'm hearing that from Manager Cordell as well, as she's of the same mind. I would recommend as your corporate officer, perhaps defeating the motion that you have there or amending it, and I could put into place for you or on the table for you or for your consideration an amended or new resolution that encompasses what I'm hearing of council's wishes. So if council wishes to defeat the motion that you have, that is your prerogative. And then if another member of council or a member of council wants to move a new motion that I can absolutely assist on the spot with, that would encompass what you're saying right now. I can help with that. I'll leave that procedure to you, Mr. Mayor and councilors, but I'm here to assist as you wish.
Thank you. So why don't we do that? We'll vote on the current motion while Chantal quickly is wordsmithing something for us to move forward with. So all those in favor? The motion is defeated. There were no registered votes, and we will give Ms. Weiss a couple moments to present us with a new recommendation.
Thank you. Bear with me while I puzzle this together in 3 sentences. Maybe for council's consideration, if somebody is comfortable making this motion, that council directs staff to report back with options and considerations for a parking study that includes the historic downtown area as shown in the map contained within the July 20th report from the Manager of Planning Services, the Smith Drive and the Fairgrounds area, including any associated budget scope and timeline implications, and that staff bring forward include the budget considerations forward it to the 2027 budget process in the fall. And if that feels like your appetite, I can absolutely do better in wording, but I know exactly what you're saying.
I think Councillor Todd wanted to move that.
Oh, could I
Oh,
add?
Ms. Cordell, sorry.
Sorry, could I just add 2 small words to it? Maybe instead of IP, just considerations for rail trail parking and RV parking, because I heard you both say both of those things. Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement with that. Ms. Weiss, you're able to incorporate that?
Yes, Your Worship, I hear council's intent, and I think that's clear. And I'll talk with Manager Cordell to ensure afterwards.
Thank you. So Councillor Todd has moved it. We will require a seconder. Councillor Fowler, let's get you on the list for tonight. Any further question? Yes?
This just makes so much more sense to me to rush through and only do part of the study when we know we have to do it all. It just doesn't sit well. So thanks for thinking about that.
Any further question? Then we'll call the vote. All those in favor? And this will be carried. Thank you. Under 6.1 correspondence, we all received a letter from the Southern Ontario Local Government Association regarding voluntary and involuntary complex care. Something that we would consider supporting, I'm certain, and jump on the bandwagon with everybody else. We know all our communities have issues with people on the street and house people that are experiencing difficulties and times, and this would provide some options. So any support we can provide to the SILGA and going through the UBCM, I would endorse. Any comments on that? No. And then 7.1 matters referred from committee, commission, or in camera. Did anybody have a report that they would like to bring up forward? Not seeing any, then we will move to a in-camera or closed session. The council proceeds in camera pursuant to section 91A, E, and J, the community charter. Personal information about identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or another position appointed by the municipality. The acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act. We have a mover. Thank you, Councillor Valstar. Seconder. Somebody? Councillor Weiner, thank you. And I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And we will move forward at 6:26 p.m. Take a short break.